Arthel?
Okay, Eric, and as the battle for Kobani rages, Turkish tanks sit just miles away, idle. Well, that's because the Turkish government is in a staring match with the White House. Turkey won't help unless the U.S. agrees to a no-fly zone in Syria. But that would force the Obama administration to work with the government of Bashar al-Assad or go it alone and take out Syria's air defenses, an aggression that could very well start a war with Syria. Mark Dubowitz is here. He is executive director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Arthel.
So you have thousands of people, civilians in Kobani facing the very likelihood of being slaughtered by ISIS. All right, you have that, and then you have inside of Turkey his own peace talks with the Turkish Kurds possibly in jeopardy. So how does Erdogan react to this pressure?
Well, Erdogan's reacting the same way he always does, by being belligerent and callous and, as you said, trying to face down the White House over this. And it's really a problem that he has played a major role in creating, in leaving this border between Turkey and Syria open so that cash and men and weapons have moved over to the jihadists, many of them who've become members of the Islamic State.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get back to this Turkey wanting this no-fly zone over Syria. That's because Erdogan wants to keep the land on the ground as a training base for the so-called Syrian rebels that are willing to fight Assad, because he is hell-bent on regime change in Syria. That's the only way to move. But if he maintains that position that it has to be Assad out only, or I'm going to sit here and remain idle. Meanwhile, though, doesn't he risk the support, the financial support that he needs? He's got 1.4 million Syrian refugees inside of his own country now. He needs the financial aid of the international community.
Arthel, you're right. He does need the aid of the international community. He needs Western's political support. But Erdogan's not wrong. I mean, there's not going to be no successful resolution to this crisis with ISIS unless the Assad regime is defeated. There is no way we're going to get the support not only of the Sunni moderate rebels on the ground, the so-called boots on the ground that the Obama administration refuses to actually put Western boots on the ground to fight this fight, but we're not going to get the support of the Sunni Arab countries. Assad has to go. His air force has to be obliterated, and otherwise he's going to continue slaughtering tens of thousands of Syrians. So Erdogan is not wrong to insist on this no-fly zone where we can actually train Syrian rebels. He is wrong in that the rebels that he wants to train and assist are Islamists, are jihadists, are people who share his Islamist ideology. We have got to have a no-fly zone that we actually install, and we got to support Syrian moderates in this fight against ISIS and Assad.
Mark, why do you believe President Obama is reluctant to go head-to-head with Assad? Is it that ISIS poses a more direct threat to the U.S., or is there something else?
I think there's something else, Arthel. This president is deeply committed to a resolution of this Iranian nuclear crisis. There are ongoing negotiations with the Iranians. Assad is a close Iranian ally. And it's because of Iran and Hezbollah's support of Assad that he's still in power. The president has shown deep reluctance over the past 3 years, since the beginning of this Syrian crisis in 2011, to confront Assad, to confront Iran, and to confront Hezbollah. He still holds out hope of an Iranian nuclear deal. And as a result, he has done nothing to actually stem the tide of bloodshed and this onslaught that Assad has launched against his own people.
But critics and supporters alike are sitting by looking at President Obama and saying why. And I'm not sure that you were able to even answer that in my previous question, Mark.
The president has said the tide of war is receding. He said that al-Qaeda was on the run. He called the Islamic State a junior varsity team. The president, unfortunately, when it comes to Syria, has gotten it consistently wrong, and that's not just my opinion, as you alluded to. That's the opinion of Leon Panetta and Hillary Clinton and many former officials of the Obama administration who believe that the president's Syria policy has been one of neglect, and that ultimately it has gotten us into a situation where in the heart of the Middle East, the Islamic State is creating a jihadist state, and Assad is continuing his butchery of the Syrian people.
I was reading a report where a resident of Raqqa said that since he was anonymous, saying that since the U.S.-led attacks began, the Syrian government airstrikes have stopped. I mean, how do you rate the U.S. airstrike campaign so far? How's it going?
The airstrike campaign has been limited, and unfortunately, it's also been constrained by an unfortunate reality, which is because we don't have boots on the ground and we don't have actual allies, particularly in Syria, it is very difficult to paint targets and then have our jet fighters hit those targets. We are now in a situation where the Islamic State is starting to melt away, and they're starting to hide amongst civilians and use civilians as human shields, and I worry that we're going to face accusations of war crimes. This is a very similar situation to what the Israelis faced with Hamas in the Gaza war this summer. I think the administration is beginning to appreciate and will begin to appreciate the excruciating dilemmas that the Israeli Air Force faced in their campaign against another jihadist group.
Okay. Mark Dubowitz, I would love to keep talking, but I am out of time, and I do thank you for your expertise this afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, Rothel.
Yeah.